Let's start with Romania, though. Let's start with your home, because it's been a busy summer there and a busy spring. Just had a presidential election. And like a lot of other countries in that area, it was very much right, nationalist, a little more friendly to Russia versus not friendly to Russia. There's some themes there that were universal to a lot of other countries in that area, but there was some unique Romanian twist. Just give people kind of the thumbnail for the American and international audience of what's been going on in Romania the last few months.
So we have had the resumed presidential elections happening in 18th of May. The winner and now our newly elected president, Nicu Jordan, is a pro-European figure. He's a former mathematician. He was trained at Sorbonne in French. In the French Republic, he was very successful in his academic career, and his credentials, of course, are very strong. Then he moved into the civil society organization, was a very popular activist for environmental issues, and then he founded what now is one of the strongest opposition liberal opposition parties that don't have anything to do with the let's say heirs of the communist parties. So totally new, totally based on Romania as being more tied to the European agenda. So that was that, but it was a long road, I would say, factoring in the fact that just a few months ago, in December 2024, we have had the presidential elections of Romania annulled by the Constitutional Court on the basis of massive foreign interference in our electoral process. Of course, I will not speculate on that too much, because it was the independent body of the Constitutional Court that took this vote to have this unprecedented decision with unanimity, although it's a very I would say well represented body with people that are named, that have very strong judicial credentials and are named by different bodies in the Romanian system, so as to ensure these checks and balances. This decision led to social unrest on behalf of the supporters of Călin Georgescu, the candidate that I like to present him to my American friends as the product of Russian money that are very well displayed and very well positioned on a Chinese social media platform. We all know it, it's TikTok. And that succeeded in just 2 weeks before these elections to win them. But the whole process was very sketchy, because he didn't report any of the funding. He was supported by some paramilitary organizations that wanted to literally overthrow the Romanian constitutional order. And this is all documented by judicial bodies as we speak. There are some things still being investigated by the law enforcement authorities. And after that, after this decision of annulling the presidential elections, the process was started fresh with new candidates, including one of the political heirs of this Călin Georgescu figure, which was George Simion, the typical candidate that really wanted to show himself as fitting into the MAGA mold, trying to show off that he's part of this Make Europe Great Again wave. Obviously, the Romanian people didn't buy that. The Romanian people are one of the most anti-Russian peoples in the eastern flank of NATO. Our antibodies for Russian propaganda are very strong. So our citizens really were able to see past that image of seeming very close to the Trump establishment, and saw that behind that was in fact a politician that was so strongly tied not only with the Kremlin narratives, but actually was known for the fact that both the Ukrainian authorities and the Moldovan authorities decided to ban him from entering these countries because of the suspicion that they hold that he is a pro-Moscow proxy. So that was that. The runoff between them, although the pro-European candidate, now the president, left in this March with a significant disadvantage, like 40% to 20%. Then in the runoff, he went back on top and he won with a comfortable, more than comfortable margin. And now we are in a moment in which a new government was formed, a government that has the clear mandate to restore the health of our financing system, because we have a very severe deficit. And on top of that, to undergo some significant reforms in our defense sector to make Romania not necessarily great again, but greater in the relation with our Euro-Atlantic partners, with United States, with the European Union, and so on. But it's, of course, a very challenging period still, because this government has left in the opposition alone the right-wing extremist parties. There is no liberal opposition party right now. All the pro-European mainstream parties are grouped in this governmental architecture, and they are trying to undergo some reforms. But as you know, reforms in government don't always serve you well in the purpose of being politically popular. So that will be I think that is the wide overview of what Romania is going on through right now. And in terms of foreign affairs, I can tell you that we can see Romania back in the game, in the regional game, with Romania being very involved into revitalizing the position it has in the Black Sea region. But not only that, the Romanian president did some delegations in Germany, in Austria, to pledge that Romania will be a good partner for countries that want to invest in Romania, to bring businesses here. So this is I see it as a very important part of his agenda to promote Romania as a good investment place. But another challenge right now will be to make sure that the relation with the United States, we have a strategic partnership with Washington, will be secured. And in that regard, I'm looking forward to see the Romanian diplomacy being more active into securing a meeting with Donald Trump, hopefully not in 2026, but this year. So that will be something to look out.
And you can see strategically, look, one of our things is always follow the money. Europe is putting a lot of business and political muscle into Romania right now because of the wider Black Sea stuff we will get to in a minute. Rheinmetall, the German defense giant, just announced they're going to be doing a lot more inside of Romania directly. Romania already has the largest NATO base at NCAB. But beyond that, they're partnering with the Austrians with the Neptune Deep gas field, which could be a real game changer. That's not just money and economic for Romania, but of course, Western Europe is very dependent on Russian natural gas. So that's something that they're looking at. There's a lot of moving parts of the EU and NATO wanting to partner up with Romania, both monetarily and defense-wise. And all of that movement is under the umbrella of Russia, which it has been for years. But the new player, and this is something you've been writing about, is not only geopolitically, but also in the cyber sphere and things like this. China has very much inserted itself into the Black Sea region in places like Romania and Georgia and these other countries. This all goes together, and the money and the investment and the defense posturing just shows how that's all coming together.
Unfortunately, when you talk with policymakers from either Brussels, Paris, or Washington, when you talk about the Black Sea region, you are not necessarily thinking of other bad actor than Russia. But what the last years have brought, particularly with the development of the Belt and Road Initiative that goes hand in hand, I would say, as a soft power tool to implementing Xi Jinping's new global security initiative, we have seen some very concrete developments into China becoming an emergent player in the region. Where I'm coming from, I would almost make a strong case. I've made it in Romanian media that China should be seen in a very clear-eyed manner by our policymakers as an emerging threat to our security environment. And why is that? First of all, because it is widely known for its theft of intellectual property, its industrial espionage, its cyber offensive capabilities through which they try to collect intelligence on our officials with the scope of limiting our political autonomy when it comes to issues that are more sensitive, maybe with Taiwan. And not only that, but the Dragon Bear Alliance, as some analysts call it, which is the alliance between Beijing and Moscow that has operated in a very clear way since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. At the last NATO summit during Joe Biden's presidency, which is the NATO 75th anniversary summit in Washington, the leaders clearly agreed that China is a decisive enabler of Russia's war machine. It is still unclear what are the Chinese objectives towards the war in Ukraine, but if we just look at the facts, we can see that it's a subtle effort of Chinese presence in the wider discussions on Ukraine's reconstruction. I would foresee China being very cautious to make sure to capitalize on opportunity and transform Ukraine's reconstruction into a critical infrastructure diplomacy site, although they are not contributing with anything in spite of their global position to the resolve of this conflict. And they are trying to be seen almost as these would-be peacemakers, but they're not using the leverage that they have in any way towards Moscow to stop the shootings, to stop the war. Moreover, we cannot overlook the fact that we've had the two leaders, Xi Jinping and Putin, sign just days before Ukraine was invaded by the Russian army in February 2022, the emergence of a strategic partnership that it's very suggestively called No Limits Partnership. So we have on the one hand these economic diplomacy and coercive economic practices that China is doing around the world and that are giving us some insight on what Chinese as an economic partner is. We have the alliance with Russia that is worrisome, and we have maybe scooping a little bit from all these two dynamics. We have China building the largest port in Anaklia right now, which will be the largest port in the Black Sea, owned by a Chinese-led consortium. We have Turkey, which is a NATO country, but is also associated with the BRICS group, and they are again involved with the Chinese in bringing together the Middle Corridor interconnectivity agenda with the Belt and Road Flagship Initiative. So, drawing the line, yes, I very much see China's role in the Black Sea region as something that cannot be overlooked by the Euro-Atlantic community. And I, from my position, I try to convince our Romanian authorities to make this case, to bring the attention of the American policymakers, because the US has a Black Sea Security Act in 2023, which was passed on a bipartisan agenda, but we haven't seen actually a Black Sea security strategy that is firm on behalf of the US for our region. And it's all the more time to build momentum, not only looking at the end of the war and of Russia being ever so the responsible of transforming this region into a war theater, but also China becoming more involved. So in that regard, I'm very proud to say that Romania, unlike other countries, has been very on board with the whole spectrum of US-led efforts for de-risking with Beijing when it comes to critical infrastructure. Since 2019, the Bucharest government made this pledge and acted upon it to take away any Huawei equipment from our 5G networks. We successfully kicked China out of our big infrastructure bids. And we have significantly downplayed our political role in the now 14+1 China and the Central Eastern European political cooperation format. So I'm not worried about my country, but I think I'm worried about our politicians missing an opportunity to become more of an entrepreneurial voice in the region for downplaying China's influence in Europe, because China's influence in Europe goes through the Black Sea, whether we like it or not. And I think it's something that should be under the attention of both people in Washington and Bucharest alike.